Iran's threat to its neighbors is well known, but in a post-October 7th world, the regional and even global threats posed by Iran take center stage. In this geopolitical puzzle, we ask, has Biden's Iran diplomacy failed? Can Israel live with a nuclear Iran? Does Iran pose a threat to the global order? As the stakes rise, we present a dynamic discussion examining Iran's current use of proxies in Gaza, Yemen, Lebanon, and Syria, the likely impact of its nuclear ambitions, and its growing alliance with Russia and China. All of that and more in this debate produced in partnership with the Council on Foreign Relations. Unresolved, the Iran threat.
I think we can look around now and we can see it very obviously has failed. Nuclear Iran is much closer than it has ever been before. They were going to pull Iran back from the nuclear precipice. Iran is within 1 week of having enough fissile material to build a nuclear weapon. It's within about 6 months of actually having a deliverable weaponized nuclear weapon. It's also a much bigger threat in the region. Its drones, ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles have created an offense-dominant regime in the region. They can, their weapons can hit, given to their proxies, the IRGC is delivering these weapons to their proxies, they can hit the national critical infrastructure of every American ally, and they can also overwhelm the defenses of the United States. They are using those weapons in 5 different arenas in the region and 1 outside the region, that's in Ukraine. Clearly, they are not contained. The policy has failed.
Thank you, Michael. Your turn now, Barbara.
I say no, it has not completely failed because we are not at war with Iran. And we are still able to pass messages to the Iranian government. Yes, has advanced its nuclear program significantly, but I don't put the blame for that on the Biden administration. I put it on the Trump administration, which stupidly withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, which would have prevented Iran from making these kinds of advancements for at least 15 years.
There were certain set of assumptions that have guided Iran policy for 20 years. 2 in particular. One was that the nuclear issue can be segregated from all other areas of concern and resolved on its own terms. And 2, that escalation of economic pressure, ideally multilateralized, could produce a reliable arms control arrangement. Think about almost any other issue from 2005. Your assumptions toward Russian Federation, China, international commerce, all those assumptions have changed. These assumptions have been proven durable, not because they've been successful across administration, but because we can't think of anything else to do. And I'm not exempting myself from that particular indictment. We're at a policy paralysis because we're at an intellectual impasse. And at this particular point, everybody's trying to figure out what the next steps are while we still be anchored by a set of assumptions concocted in early 21st century, persisted throughout the administration, persisted through everything that has changed, including a very difficult situation in Iran itself that has changed. So I would say the Biden administration suffers from the same set of maladies as its predecessors did.
Thank you, Ray.
The core problem is the offense-dominant regime that the Iranians have. They have these weapons, these disruptive military capabilities. I'm talking about their conventional capabilities. The missiles, the ballistic missiles, and the drones. They've distributed them to all of their allies. For the first time ever, they're organizing all of those allies against one target, that is Israel or the war in Gaza. We have to create. They have an offense-dominant regime, which means that it's very hard to defend against these weapons that they have. The United States is offering its allies and its own troops purely defensive measures. The answer is always integrated missile defense. It doesn't work. You have to go on offense.
The Iranians are waiting for our election. They're not going to make any major compromises on anything until they see whether it's second-term Biden or it's, God forbid, Trump again. But I do believe that they are cautious, more cautious than we give them credit for, and that there is a way to work with them. Of course, the most important thing is to get a ceasefire in Gaza, because once we get a ceasefire in Gaza, then the pressure is off all of these various proxy groups, right? They don't have to prove their manhood anymore once
Okay.
the
Ray?
shooting stops.
I see that they are already gaining from the closeness to a nuclear weapon that they have achieved from a lot of the benefits that come from having a nuclear weapon. So one of the reasons why the Biden administration does not want to escalate is it fears that Iran will rush to a bomb. We have to prove to Iran, both with regard to its conventional capabilities and with regard to the nuclear threat, that we are actually willing to take from it things that it holds very dear.
You can jump in, Barbara.
Mike, what do you mean by that?
What
What do you mean by that? Are you talking about bombing Tehran? I mean, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about our troops are under attack directly from Iran.
Right.
The proxies, we call them proxies, the proxies that are attacking our troops in Iraq and Syria are under the direct command and control of Iran. They escalated. This is not about...
Yeah, so what do you want to do to Iran that we aren't already doing?
This is not about Gaza. This is to call this a war over Gaza is to frame it incorrectly. It's a war between the Iranian alliance system and the American alliance system. And what we need to do, for example, there is Abdul Reza Shalahi, who's in Sana'a and who is delivering missiles, drones, and ballistic missiles to the Houthis.
Right.
The Houthis just used, for the first time ever in the world...
So you want to assassinate him?
Yes.
Yeah, we
absolutely.
tried, in 2020 and missed, apparently.
We have very good skills at this. We can.
I'm sorry. They'll replace him with another IRGC general. That's what they do.
And we'll kill him. And we'll kill another one. And we'll kill another one. Barbara, this is the conversation that isn't happening in Tehran. When the IRGC says, let's attack Americans, Khamenei never says, oh, no, you know what? Force doesn't work. The Americans will just replace whatever we take away from them, they'll just replace it with something else.
I'm sorry, I think the Israelis have killed, I don't know how many Iranian
We're talking
generals.
about the United States.
The United
States
Why do you think killed Soleimani, and it didn't do us any damn good.
Okay, Barbara, you are answering yes in answer to the question that Israel can live with the nuclear Iran.
Yeah, Israel has at least 90 nuclear warheads. It has a second strike capability. It can survive if Iran also acquires nuclear weapons. And I think we've seen very graphically that the real threat to Israel comes from its occupation of Palestinians and denial of their rights, and the contradictions within Israeli society between ultra-Orthodox, ultra-right, settler, kibbutzniks. These are the real threats to the state of Israel. People are leaving the country. Some are leaving the country because of what happened on October 7th. That was all done with the crudest of tools by Hamas. So nuclear weapons, I don't think, even if Iran were to get them, and I'm not convinced that they will, they wouldn't be used.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند